Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the Spirit Lifestyle Festival. There are so many wonderful guests that are gifted and knowledgeable, and I hope that you take the opportunity to not only listen to their videos, but to check out their websites and the free offers that they provide. I'm from Canada, and I am the CEO of Inspired Sacred Soul. And I'm here today to talk with you about just some of the things that I do. I've titled this program Repathing Your Life. And I just want to share with you some things that you can possibly do to move yourself forward into progressive evolution. And what I mean by that is if you feel like you're stuck right now, or you feel like things just aren't moving forward to where you want to be or where you want them to be, it could be trauma that you've experienced as a child or as an adult. And then don't forget, we've all been through trying times in this last little bit over a year now. And it's really, I think, caused us all to rethink our lives and to really grow and think outside the box. And we're all still in that zone. We're all still growing. We're all still learning. And this is why it's so important. And we're very fortunate to be able to share on video with everyone across the world globally, because we can kind of barter in a sense, right? We're connecting, we're networking, and we're getting to know a lot of people that we ordinarily would not have come to get to know if we were in our little bubble, in our city or our town, or even our state or province. So I just want to share with you, there are 3 points that I'm going to go over, and one is movement, and the second one is passion. And the third one is possibility. So movement, passion, and possibility. And when we're looking at all of these connecting, workable parts, what is the commonality that they share is something I call cell memory. And some of you may have heard of this before because people have written books, and scientists, path bearers have written books about cell memory, or they have incorporated the idea about memory and what it does for us, and how we can make it or have it work on our behalf. And what I'm talking about is the old blueprints that we've had in our lives do lay a memory on our brain. So if you want to just imagine it as you've got your brain, and you've got, an event that happens or a situation that happens, and one happens on top of the other. And when you're a child, when you're a baby, you're just absorbing all of that information like a sponge, right? And throughout our whole lives, we're doing that. We're even when we don't realize that we're observing, we are, because we're taking in all of that information. So we're taking it in consciously, but we're also taking it in subconsciously. So if you just want to kind of to have a visual, there's your conscious mind, which, if you're, driving a vehicle, you don't have to relearn how to drive a vehicle every time you get in. Once you learn how to drive a vehicle or ride a bike, you pretty much know how to do it again every other time. And then your subconscious mind is the place where all of those memories layer one on top of the other. So I wrote a book. It's just recently out. So if you'd like a copy, or you'd like to read a little bit more what it's about, it's on Amazon. And I also have it on my own website. And I have copies here that I can just directly mail out to you wherever you are. So, it's up to you. But what I'm talking about is, how do we change that blueprint? So let's say we've had some PTSD. Over this last year, there's been a lot of fear. There's been a lot of uncertainty. And so how can we change that? How can we redirect our lives in a positive way to bring our life to work for us? So, for example, they've said that the suicide rates have just climbed to the top. Divorce, marital and family issues have skyrocketed, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, all of those things, and those are to be expected, right? Because when as human beings we are no longer following the norm and the routine that we're used to following, it kind of throws a wrench into things, and it can throw us off our game, right? So how can we change that? How can we move out of sickness? How can we move out of self-doubt or loneliness? You know, loneliness has been a big thing in this last year because a lot of us haven't been able to go out and socialize. We haven't been able, if we're single, we haven't been able to meet a partner. We haven't been able to meet with families on quite a number of occasions. So we've really been limited. We can't socialize, go to the show, whatever it is we're used to doing. So how can we change that? How can we take this old blueprint and turn it into something positive? We may have had labeling upon us over the years, labeled as, ADHD or bipolar, or we may have had abuse in our past childhood, or even in our adult life. So how can we change that? Well, one way we can change some of that is by movement. So what I'm talking about here is stay in movement. So for example, if you know that you're prone to experiencing depression, how can you pull yourself out of depression? And that's a really difficult one for a lot of people, because it's like, yeah, how do I move out of depression when I don't want to get up off the couch, or I don't want to get out of bed? And really what it starts is with one little step, one step at a time. And so we can get up and put the kettle on or put the coffee machine on and just take one step at a time. So get that, layer of that new thought, and what I call them is imprints. So now layer a new imprint on the old blueprint. So the old blueprint would be, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to vacuum today. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do, there's that resistance there. We can all fall into resistance or procrastination, right? So how can we change that? We can take one step at a time. We can get up, go and put the kettle on, put the coffee pot on, maybe make something to eat, get dressed, go for a jog, go for a walk. We know that movement is really important, because think of this. If you've gone for a walk and you're just out, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the fresh air, enjoying the trees, you start to think differently. So now this starts to rewire your brain, right? It starts to change the chemistry of your brain. So now when you come home, hey, you may have the desire to get something done around the house, or you may have the desire to work on a project you've been wanting to work on. So movement is really important. And what it does is in that movement of walking or jogging or going to the gym or dancercise, whatever it is you'd like to do. I mean, you can do it in your living room. You put YouTube on and put some music on and just, dancercise, and you don't have to be worried about anyone watching you and gawking at you. You can do it privately. You could join a group. So there's a lot of things that a person can do in the form of movement to push yourself forward, to pull yourself out of that old patterning and into something productive and wonderful, right? Because now you're progressing. You're in evolutionary progression, right? Another thing you can do is, I'm a painter, and I run classes on painting, and I have memberships for that. So here's just one. And I mean, I'm not too fond of this one, but I really find it intriguing in some ways. I just got some paints out and just started dabbing paint all over the canvas, right? And it almost looks like there's a woman laying here under the tree. And, you don't have to be a Picasso. You can surprise yourself. It's all about just exploring and discovering who you are. Another one I've done is, this was just some rocks that I decided to create and threw some sparkle in there, and it just livens up the bathroom, right? So, you can go into Walmart and you can buy a print, but why not create your own, right? Why not pour your soul into, feeling out what you like. And then here's another one that's not quite finished, but it's also intriguing, right? So it's a little bit of a different style. So you can just play with brushes and create from your spirit, from your emotions. You can put music on, you know, you can paint in silence, you can put a movie on and just create, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to be, you know, a famous artist, but you never know, right? There's always possibility. So another thing that I like to do in the mornings is I will put on Hertz videos, and you can just Google them. It's 852 Hertz or 432 Hertz videos, and they will come up on YouTube, and it's just music, mostly instrumental and vibrational tones that speak to your subconscious mind. And this literally will change your perspective on things, because, you know, sometimes I don't feel like getting out of bed myself. So I'll put those on even sometimes before I get out of bed, just so that I can pull myself up, or I'll jump up, let the pups out, and I'll throw it on the TV, and I'll just let it play through the house, sometimes for an hour, sometimes for several hours. And I really have noticed a difference in my perspective then, and how I perceive things and how I approach the day, right? Because we want to make everything that we can out of our day. And finally, another technique that I use is called tapping. And some of you may be familiar with it. There's different types of tapping, but this tapping allows you to open up your third eye and your consciousness. And what I mean by that is we are all living on, you know, on the earth in the 3D world. And so everything is tangible, right? We can see this table, we see everything. It's the 3D world of materialism, right? And what's happening right now with the shifting of the earth is that we are moving up through the fourth dimension and into the fifth dimension. Now, none of us fully knows what the fifth dimension is going to look like, because we haven't arrived yet. We can make assumptions. We can listen to some spiritual guidance videos on what that might look like. But really what's happening is that we as soul beings, because we're soul beings living the human experience, we are progressing and we are growing. No longer are we in the dark, right? So as we're moving through that 4D tunnel of consciousness, we are learning, we're taking in information, you know, just like a sponge, or ever so slowly, whatever, you know, our whatever speed we want to move in. And so we may gain a little bit of information and understanding, and, you know, move into that path of opening up our consciousness a little bit at a time. And one thing that helps with that is opening up your third eye. And so I'm just going to show you, it's called tapping. And I find this very helpful if, say, you know, you didn't sleep well at night, and you really, you know, you have a meeting and you want to be awake and aware. You just tap. So you just tap, double tap with your fingers on your third eye. Okay? You guys can follow along with me if you like. And then you want to tap on either side of your brain hemispheres, right? All the way down to your neck. And then you want to start beside that. You're going to go all the way over and down the brain. Okay? Now, you could just stop there, because you will feel a difference. As you continue to do this, you'll feel that. But you can also continue. And that means tapping down the body, right? Because now what's this doing? It's waking the body up, right? It's waking all our organs and our tissues up. And you just simply move down through the body, you know, reach your back as best you can, wake up those kidneys, wake up that liver, and then down your legs and up the side, down the back and up the middle, and then finish with your root chakra, right? Just waking up that your whole entire body system. And you'll find that when you do this, it really helps, and it really gets you alive and gets you awake and gets you kind of in that mode of movement, right? Because what we have to realize is that one of the I don't know, hurdles that we might have to overcome is the brain and connecting the two parts of the brain. We know that the left side of the brain is the logical, and we know that the right side of the brain is the creative. So we want to really bring those two together. Yes, it's great to be practical and logical, and we want to access our left side of our brain to be able to do that, but we also want to be creative. You know, even an accountant can be creative, right? Because they're working with numbers and they figure out, you know, where to put them and how to put them, and so there kind of is no limit there. We want to be able to access both, and we want them to bridge together and work together, right? So that's movement. Then we've got passion. So how are you following your passion? Let me just ask you that. Are you doing what you've wanted to do your entire life? Are you going to a job that you don't want to go to? Do you have friends around you that you're not happy with? Just look at your life, look at your internal life of how you live, you know, in your home, and how you live out in your work world or your social life, your social world, right? And if you want to change that, the only way to do that is to tap into yourself. And when I was talking about the dimensions, that's basically what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about consciousness. And in my book, I talk about the 8 keys to consciousness. So I talk about synchronicity and resilience and all of those wonderful things that help us to connect who we really are, right? To connect our mind, our emotions, our body, and our spirit, and to connect with consciousness. So what do I mean by that? Well, we have a thing called the divine. In the universal hemispheres, whatever you want to call it, I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about, you know, whatever belief system you come from, it's all the same power, right? Because it's all energy. Energy is alive and it is everywhere. And so when we're talking about universal energy, what we're talking about is connecting our higher power of who we are in our soul being. And sometimes that's often referred to as the threefold flame within us, the Christ consciousness. And so what that means is the being not only aware, but awakened, right? And when we come to that point where we become awakened, we are now able to receive information and messages from the other side. It could be from our guides. It could be from God himself. We all have guides that walk with us. We have a guide that stays with us from the time, you know, we're born or in vitro right until we cross over. So it could be that guide. It could be other guides that speak to us. It could be someone that we've, Auntie Flo or grandma or grandpa. It could be someone that's already crossed over, a good friend, or it could be divine angels, right? Angels that have not been born. So archangels would be an example of that. Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Uriel. So there's all sorts of help. Why I share this with you, it's huge because there's so much help that they have to offer us. And when, maybe some of you have had experiences where you've, I don't know, say found money on the ground, you're finding dimes and quarters all the time, or you go to make your bed and you don't have a down feather pillow or comforter, but all of a sudden a feather comes floating as you're fluffing up your pillows, comes floating down out of the air, and you just you're kind of dumbfounded because you don't know where that feather came from. These are all signs, or seeing numbers, for example, 1111 or 1212. All these things are ways that the other side is communicating with us and trying to get messages across to us. And for myself, as a soul contact intuitive, I do readings and I do see spirits. I do see maybe a grandfather that's passed away, or maybe if you've lost a child when they were a baby, an infant. I do see spirits and get messages, and they're not going to just come to you and scare you right away if you're not comfortable with that. Just know that they know who you are as a human being, and what you're capable of accepting and receiving. And just know that they've got your back, and they're watching out for you, and they want to connect with you, and they want to help you. And sometimes it takes time to learn how to use those tools and whatnot that you can access to help you grow. For example, I have a deck here. It's just such a beautiful deck. It's called The Hero's Journey, and very artistic cards. There's so many beautiful decks out now. But I pulled a card for today's meet gathering, and it's called Become the Elixir. Let your glow do the heavy lifting. And it's just so beautiful. I thought it was so pertinent, excuse me, pertinent to what we're doing today. Is we're talking about becoming the elixir, becoming the very best person that we can be, because we want, this is the only life we have to live. We want to be able to succeed in this life and do the things that we've wanted to do, that we've always wanted to do. It could be creating jewelry. It could be learning how to, work on your car as a mechanic. You may not want to do it as a profession, but it might be something that you'd like to do as a hobby. So that's what, tapping into our soul is all about. And then finally, we've got possibility, right? And that's what I'm talking about. It's about letting go of the ego, not stop, allowing ourselves to get in our own way, to allow possibility to come in, to reach out to people, because you know what? You might reach out to one person and they might know someone else that can actually help you with exactly what you need guidance in, or training in, or just support, right? So it's all about that possibility. And when we can envision that possibility, oh my goodness, that's all the better. And what I'm talking about with envisioning is visualizing. So I'm sure some of you have heard of, you've got meditation and you've got visualization. And so I run courses teaching that on transformational imagery. And it's really quite helpful, because you get messages that help you when maybe there's an issue with yourself, with your health, or your you need guidance. Which course should I take at the university? Should I move to a different city? There's all kinds of decisions that we need to make in our lives. That's a little bit better. And so we want to look at that. We want to look at the possibilities, because we want to change those blueprints. If they're not working for us, or we want to change direction, we want to change those blueprints, and we want to create that new imprint, because we want to see ourselves, and we want to see ourselves successful in whatever it is, whether it's, raising a family. Maybe you've been trying to have a baby and you need to, look at options with in vitro or adoption or whatever. The other side always knows what our path is. And it's our responsibility to connect with them and to tap into that, right? To tap into that otherworldly connection. And that's our own higher self tapping in, right? And when we look at the possibilities, we also look at hope, because hope is that extension. If we don't have hope, which is why I think this last year has been very difficult for a lot of people, if we don't have hope, how can we move into that possibility? If we're frozen, or if, the fight, flight, or freeze piece. So we want to kind of give ourselves a kick and push ourselves into hope, so that we can see possibility, and possibility becomes probability, right? So when we look at hope, we have the power to create our future. We have the power to change the imprinting, or the blueprinting rather, that has and we've been a part of that, right? That has created our world. And so conscious living, when we're conscious of what we are doing and tapping into our subconscious mind and overcoming some of those traumas and those hurdles and those limitations, we can now repath our lives, right? We can move into consciousness, right? So it's about rewiring our brain, repathing our emotions, and revitalizing our spirit, rediscovering our spirit, right? So we want to look at what can I do that's the best solution for me. It's not about being selfish. It's about self-care, and it's about personal development, and it's about becoming the best person that you can possibly be. So I hope you enjoyed our connecting, and just remember, you have the power to repath your life. You can reach out to me at my website at sightbeyondsight.org, or you can shoot me an email message, and we can have a free discovery chat, and find out if maybe there's something that we can do in working together. And don't forget, I have very affordable memberships that are available to you, whereby you can get all sorts of support and empowerment to become the superpower person that you are. And on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, whatever you want that to be. And enjoy the rest of the festival.